James, if you happen to have picked up your bulletin. And what I just shared with you hopefully will make sense in this progress. James 2, verses 1 through 13. My friends, if you have faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, you won't treat some people better than others. Suppose a rich person wearing fancy clothes and gold rings comes to one of your meetings. And suppose a poor person dressed in worn-out clothes also comes. You must not give the best seat to the one in fancy clothes and tell the one who is in poor to stand at the side or sit on the floor. That is the same as saying to some people are better than others, and you would be acting like a crooked judge. My dear friends, pay attention. God has given a lot of faith to the poor people of this world. He has also promised them a share in his kingdom that he will give to everyone who loves him. You mistreat the poor. But isn't it the rich who boss you around and drag you off to court? Aren't they the ones who make fun of your Lord? You will do right if you obey the most important law in the Scriptures. It is the law that commands us to love others as much as we love ourselves. But if you treat some people better than others, you have done wrong, and the Scriptures teach you that you have sinned. If you obey every law except one, you are still guilty of breaking them all. The same God who told us to be faithful in marriage also told us not to murder. So even if you are faithful in marriage but murder someone, you still have broken God's law. Speak and act like people who will be judged by the law that sets us free. Do this because on the day of judgment there will be no pity for those who have not had pity on others. But even in judgment, God is merciful. May God add blessing, understanding, and grace to the reading of this, his holy word. There is a classic story from Howard Kleinbell who teaches pastoral care. And it is one that I think almost every pastor has heard, has seen, has read. In fact, it's on the fly page of his book. And it goes something like this. On the east coast of, or on the west coast of Africa, there were many rocks and many waves and many strong storms. And in that area, there was a little hut, almost, where people gathered for worship. And outside of the hut, they kept 4 or 5 lifeboats. And they would keep a vigil at the hut. They would take turns from their community keeping a vigil at this hut. And they would look out over the seas, and when it got very, very rough, they would send some extra people. And when there was a shipwreck, they would get into their boats and they would row out to the ship, and they would pick up those who were in the ocean, and they would bring them back to their hut, and they would give them showers, and they would clean them up, and they would hold them until they could go on to the next station. Well, up and down the coast, so many people heard about this wonderful act that was going on that more and more people wanted to be part of this group. So they decided that this little hut wasn't big enough, so they built a bigger building. In fact, they built a huge building, and they put in showers, and they put in a special room, and they had a window they could see out on the ocean. And lo and behold, they would sit at the window and they would look out and they would see the shipwrecks, and they would jump out and they would get in their lifeboats and they would go and get the people and they would bring them back. Except there became a problem. The people would come in on their new carpeted floor and they would get it wet and they would leave seaweed, and there were some who were upset that their new building was getting wet and seaweed was on the floor. So they decided the answer to this was to build a shower room right at the end of this building. And so they bought another building that didn't have carpeted floors, and it didn't have tile, and it had a place for a shower, and it had some older chairs. And so they would sit at the window and they would run out and they would rescue people from the shipwreck, and they would bring them back, and immediately they would take them to the other building until they had gotten cleaned up. and then they would come back into the carpeted center. Well, this went on for a while, and more people came, and the building grew, and the building grew, and people celebrated, and they laughed, and they had such a wonderful, wonderful time that they didn't look out the window quite so much. And a group of people said, "We forgot our first mission." So they moved on down the coast and built another hut. Took some lifeboats with them, and they went out and they rescued people. Well, as the years went by, that building was converted into a magnificent place, and they put the shower, and eventually there were more and more buildings built up and down the coast. Today there's still shipwrecks along that coast, but very few people are saved. In fact, lifeboats are a thing of the past. They're nowhere to be found. The people are gathering in the buildings, and they're celebrating, and they forget the people who were shipwrecked in the ocean. Kleinbell, I think, put that story in the book to help those of us who were being trained for the pastorate not to forget what we were being called to do. I tell you that story. It can be a troublesome story, but I tell you that story because as a congregation, we must remember there are people that are dying. There are people that are not here that are dying. There are people that are not here that are crying and are hurting and are lost. One of the things in my ministry that I found, I don't care if you have $100,000 in your checkbook or you have nothing in your checkbook. When someone in your family dies, your heart still breaks. Your life gets turned upside down. The difference is that when you have $100,000 in your checkbook, you have a few more resources to deal with the issue. When you have nothing, not only are you grieving, but you're trying to find a way to have a respectable burial for the person who's lost. Our world around us in Tioga County is turning upside down. We still have poor, we still have those that are struggling, but quickly we are finding that there's money that wasn't here before. And we're not sure how we're working with that. We're not sure where we're moving in that. We're not sure what that looks like. And we as a church are really a life-saving station. It is from here that we go out. It is from here we go to make disciples. We go to hear, we go to listen. We go and have compassion. And when we leave this building, we don't decide on whose house to go to based on the kind of car that sits in the front lawn or whether there's a car there at all or not. We need to go based on need and struggle and hope, and we need to go where the Spirit leads us. We need to go where our heart is pulling us. And those will not always be easy journeys. Those will not always be easy places to go. This morning I pulled up on the internet a story by Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy is a Russian, and somehow we have in our heads that Russians don't believe in God. Well, Leo Tolstoy was before the communists. Much of his writing is laced with Christian metaphor and Christian love. But he wrote a story where love is, there God is also. You may know it as the story of the shoemaker who lived in the basement apartment and looked out the window. Some of you know that story. But he changed his life around and began to read the scriptures. And one night he heard a voice saying to him from the Messiah, from the Master, "I'm going to come and visit your house today, tomorrow." So he kept looking out his window, watching the feet of people going by, and he'd say, "Oh, that's the baker. I fixed his shoes last week. Oh, that's widow so-and-so because I remember the buttons on her shoes that I put on." He knew people by their feet. And so he's cleaned up his shop. He's gotten ready. He's ready for the Messiah to come to his house this day. So he looks out the window and he sees a gentleman shivering and shivering outside, and he opens his door and invites him in. His name is Stefanik. Over the course, they had tea, they have conversation. He cares for them, he's warned, and he leaves. He looks out the window shortly after, looking for the feet of the Messiah, and he sees a woman huddling in the cold with a little baby. So he brings her in. She is so hungry that she can't even feed her baby. So he takes the food that he's prepared for the Messiah, he puts it on the table, he feeds her, he goes and finds an old coat, he puts his coat around her, he cares for her in every way that he can, and she leaves, and he continues to look out the window for the boots, for the feet of the Messiah. And then he sees this woman in the street grab a young boy by the hair and hold on to him because he'd just taken an apple out of her basket. And she's hauling this boy down the street with her hands. She said, I'm taking him to the police, I'm taking him to the police. He runs out of his shop and he intervenes. And he pays for the apple and he gives the boy an apple, and he and the lady have a long conversation about the value of this young person. Now it becomes nighttime, and he sits in his chair and he thinks he's missed the Messiah. He thinks he's missed the Messiah coming because he was so busy with these three people. And lo and behold, he hears the words, I was there. I was there. And the shoemaker says, where? I was there in the man who came and you made him warm and you gave him tea. I was there in the woman who came with a baby and you made sure they had food to eat and a coat to wear and you sent them off. I was there when you intervened in justice for the boy who was going to be hauled off to jail. I was there in those who were tired and cold and hungry. Ultimately, this story from James is about the treatment of people, but ultimately it's about meeting Jesus. Because over and over the scriptures tell us we will meet Jesus in those who are struggling, in those who are hungry, in those who are in need. Mother Teresa spent her life meeting Jesus while she held people who were dying with worms crawling out of their back. Sorry that I have to be so explicit, but if you read her diary, you will find out. And when people asked her why she was doing it, she said, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Mother Teresa never got rich holding people whose worms were crawling out of their back. Rich as we understand it. She got rich blessings. Very rich blessings, because she knew what Jesus was doing. And she saw him every day in the poor that she met. So a little warning, be careful. When you start choosing who you talk to and who you see and who you welcome, when you start giving your best seats away to those who can afford it, rather than those who need it, we may miss Jesus Christ in the midst of our worship service or in our friendship center or in our youth group. Because always Jesus has come to those who are in need. Let us pray.